This is my top 50 greatest bodybuilders of all time, and yes, this list is obviously going to be wrong. Wait, what are you saying, Supersetman? I'm saying that there is absolutely no way to fairly rank greatness in a sport that has been evolving for decades upon decades, different eras, different judging standards, different priorities. So this list is not about claiming absolute truth, it's about starting a conversation, having fun, and celebrating bodybuilding for what it is: passion. So let's not waste any more time. I'm not going to bore you starting from number 50, we're going straight to the top. The greatest bodybuilder of all time is Ronnie Coleman. His Mr. Olympia record alone backs up this claim. 8 Olympia wins, tied for the most ever with Lee Haney, who we'll talk about in just a second. Ronnie is also the second winningest bodybuilder of all time with 26 professional victories, second only to Dexter Jackson. Ronnie is also an Arnold Classic winner. But beyond the numbers, Ronnie has something very few athletes ever achieve: true legacy. I'm always surprised by how many non-bodybuilding fans know who Ronnie Coleman is. Even here in Romania, his name transcended the sport. In fact, the only bodybuilder with a greater legacy than Ronnie might be the man ranked just below him. The second greatest bodybuilder of all time is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Nobody should be surprised by this, except maybe those upset that he's not number one. Arnold is the reason bodybuilding exists the way it does today. His physique was timeless, his charisma unmatched, and his 7 Olympia wins would likely be much higher if he hadn't left the sport early to pursue Hollywood. Arnold also created the Arnold Classic, a show that nowadays rivals the Mr. Olympia. Arnold didn't just dominate bodybuilding, he changed public perception of it. In an era when bodybuilders were seen as freaks, Arnold made the physique aspirational. I'll be honest, even I go back and forth about whether Arnold should be first. But the difference in my eyes is this: Ronnie became what he is only because of bodybuilding. Arnold became a bodybuilder, a movie star, and a politician. That's why Ronnie edges him out here. The third greatest bodybuilder of all time is Lee Haney. And you could argue he's greater than both Ronnie and Arnold. Haney was the first man to break Arnold's 7-title record, winning 8 consecutive Olympias. To put things into perspective, Lee Haney retired younger than Ronnie Coleman was when he won his first Olympia. What truly separates Haney is that he's the only multiple-time Olympia winner with virtually no controversy surrounding his reign. He was dominant, respected, and clean in both physique and character. The only reason he sits at number 3 is a legacy outside the hardcore bodybuilding world. Within the sport itself, Lee Haney may very well be the greatest of all time. If the top 3 are locked in, number 4 is where things get interesting, and my pick is Dorian Yates. Dorian came after Lee Haney and before Ronnie Coleman. If you compare Lee's era to Ronnie's era, the difference in size and conditioning is massive. Dorian Yates is the bridge between those two worlds. Nicknamed the Game Changer, Dorian was the first true mass monster to bring Olympia winning conditioning. He won 6 Mr. Olympia titles in one of the toughest eras bodybuilding has ever seen, the 1990s. That's why Dorian earns 4th place, just ahead of our next competitor. The 5th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Phil Heath, and arguably the 2nd greatest peak physique ever, behind only Ronnie Coleman. This list is about greatness, not just physical perfection, but Phil still checks both boxes. If this video gets at least 50 new subscribers, we'll do a top 50 best bodybuilders of all time, since this one is about greatness. Phil Heath won 7 consecutive Olympia titles, tying Arnold's record, and in his prime he had no weak points: round muscle bellies, insane fullness, and elite conditioning. Phil dominated an often underrated 2010s era filled with elite competitors. The 6th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Jay Cutler, and perhaps the most underrated and underappreciated GOAT. Jay is a 4-time Mr. Olympia winner, the man who dethroned Ronnie Coleman in 2006, stopping what could have been a 9th straight title. He also holds the record for most Olympia runner-up finishes with 6 silver medals. That's 10 top 2 Olympia finishes spanning the eras of Ronnie Coleman and Phil Heath. On top of that, Jay won 3 consecutive Arnold Classics. Beyond competition, Jay might be the best ambassador bodybuilding has ever had, always respectful, never tearing down other eras or athletes, unlike other legends on this list. The 7th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Dexter "The Blade" Jackson. Dexter is a one-time Mr. Olympia winner, a record 5-time Arnold Classic champion, and the winningest bodybuilder of all time with 29 professional victories. His career spanned 4 decades, with wins over legends like Jay Cutler, Phil Heath, and even Ronnie Coleman if we count the 2007 Olympia. Dexter was known for elite conditioning and one of the most complete physiques ever assembled. Longevity like that is literally unheard of. The 8th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Sergio Oliva, the Myth. Sergio was a 3-time Mr. Olympia winner and the only man to ever defeat Arnold Schwarzenegger on the Olympia stage back in 1969. He's widely considered to have the greatest genetics in bodybuilding history. Massive arms, an unreal V-taper, and the smallest waist of any Olympia winner. And despite that waist, he was still massive for his era. Conflicts with the IFBB cut his career short in the federation. Who knows? Sergio could have been a 6 or 7-time champion himself. The 9th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Flex Wheeler, the ultimate uncrowned Mr. Olympia. Flex never won the Olympia, but he finished runner-up 3 times and won 4 Arnold Classics. What earns him this ranking isn't just accolades, it's his physique. Widely regarded as the most aesthetically perfect physique of all time, even legends like Dorian Yates and Ronnie Coleman have said so. His 1993 Arnold Classic physique is still considered by many to be the greatest bodybuilding look ever displayed on stage. Perfect symmetry, perfect proportions. Rounding out the top 10 is Kevin Levrone, another uncrowned Olympia legend. Kevin finished runner-up 4 times, the most ever without winning the title. He won 2 Arnold Classics and ranks as the 4th winningest bodybuilder of all time with 22 professional victories. He competed during the brutal eras of Dorian and Ronnie, yet never really looked outmatched. Known for taking long breaks from training and still returning at an elite level, Kevin may be the greatest what-if in bodybuilding history. Today he remains one of the most popular bodybuilders on social media, all because of how incredible he looked in his prime. Now that we've covered the top 10, let's talk about the first group of honorable mentions who didn't make the top 50. Eugene Sandow is often regarded as the father of modern bodybuilding, but while his influence on the sport is undeniable, bodybuilding wasn't an organized competitive sport in his era. Other honorable mentions include Steve Reeves, Reg Park, and Bill Pearl, all hugely influential athletes whose legacies helped shape bodybuilding. However, their impact came before the sport took the form we know today, before professional competitions existed, and before the Mr. Olympia was established. Now, let's continue with our top 50. The 11th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Frank Zane, the godfather of aesthetics. Frank Zane represents the absolute peak of symmetry, balance, and aesthetics. A 3-time Mr. Olympia winner, Zane proved that bodybuilding wasn't just about mass, it was about shape, proportion, and presentation. In an era dominated by bigger men, Zane carved out his own lane and mastered it completely. To this day, his physique is used as a reference point for what perfect proportions look like. If bodybuilding were judged purely on aesthetics, Frank Zane might very well be top 5 of all time. At number 12, we have Kai Greene. Kai is one of the most unique and influential bodybuilders in history, not just for his physique, but for his artistry, intensity, and presence. He finished runner-up at the Olympia 3 times during the Phil Heath era, and pushed the reigning champion harder than anyone else. Kai is also a 3-time Arnold Classic winner. While Kai never won the Olympia, his muscle maturity, flowing shape, and emotional connection with fans made him one of the most popular athletes the sport has ever seen. His impact extends far beyond trophies. He's also arguably a top 5 bodybuilding physique of all time in his absolute prime. Don't forget to subscribe so we can make that video. The 13th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Hadi Choopan. Hadi represents the modern gold standard for conditioning and is definitely the greatest bodybuilder since Phil Heath. Nicknamed the Persian Wolf, he rose from years of visa issues and limited exposure to become a Mr. Olympia champion, proving that pure physique quality still matters. Despite standing shorter than most open competitors, Hadi's density, hardness, and muscle detail allowed him to consistently beat much larger athletes. His Olympia win cemented him as one of the most complete modern bodybuilders ever. He has also been at the center of some of the most controversial decisions in recent years, with many claiming he should already be a multiple-time winner. Hadi is also an Arnold Classic winner and the first still competing athlete on this list. Before he retires, he may yet push into the top 10. At number 14 is Franco Colombo. Franco was far more than just Arnold's training partner. A two-time Mr. Olympia winner, Franco combined elite strength with top-tier bodybuilding, something almost unheard of at the time. Standing much shorter than his competitors, Franco proved that height isn't destiny in bodybuilding. His grit, power, and competitive mindset made him one of the toughest champions the sport has ever seen. The 15th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Shawn Ray. Shawn Ray may be the most consistent top-level competitor in bodybuilding history. He placed top 5 at the Olympia 12 times, a record that still hasn't been matched. While he never won the Olympia, Shawn Ray was known for flawless proportions, balance, and year-round conditioning. He rarely, if ever, came in off, and that consistency is what earns him such a high ranking. Shawn is also an Arnold Classic winner and an influential, often controversial voice in the bodybuilding world. At number 16, we have Lee Labrada. Lee Labrada is the definition of reliability at the elite level. He finished top 4 at the Mr. Olympia every single year he competed, never once placing outside that range. Labrada combined symmetry, conditioning, and professionalism in a way that set the standard for future generations. His physique may not have been the biggest, but it was always among the best. The 17th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Samir Banu. Known as the Lion of Lebanon, Samir was a Mr. Olympia champion whose physique embodied the transition between the golden era and the modern age. His back development in 1983 can still be considered among the best ever, even by today's standards. His conditioning, detail, and elegant presentation made him one of the most aesthetically pleasing champions of the 1980s. Samir's Olympia win also marked a historic moment as he became the first Middle Eastern champion in bodybuilding history. At number 18, we have Big Ramy. Big Ramy is the modern symbol of sheer mass dominance. A two-time Mr. Olympia winner, Ramy brought unprecedented size to the stage, even by today's standards. While his conditioning fluctuated throughout his career, his peak was undeniable. When Big Ramy was on, no one on stage could match his raw muscle mass and physical presence. The 19th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Marcus Rule, probably the only bodybuilder whose size would make even Big Ramy jealous. Marcus Rule is the definition of a cult legend. Known for his outrageous shoulder development and freaky mass, Rule pushed the boundaries of what fans thought was possible. Although he never won the Olympia or other major pro shows, his influence and popularity are massive. His physique, especially his upper body, remains among the most extreme ever seen on a bodybuilding stage. Rounding out the top 20 is Derek Lunsford. Derek represents the present of open bodybuilding. As the current Mr. Olympia, he is not riding the most popular moment possible. However, his Olympia success in 2 divisions places him in a unique position. He is also only the second athlete ever to lose the Olympia title and win it back, after Jay Cutler, and he is an Arnold Classic winner as well. While his legacy is still being written, his impact is already significant enough to earn him a spot in the top 20. Since we focused on the open division, this list won't include legends from other modern bodybuilding divisions, even though their legacies certainly deserve recognition. Super athletes like 7-time 212 Mr. Olympia Flex Lewis or 3-time and current 212 champion Keon Pearson are honorable mentions here. The same goes for Classic Physique GOAT Chris Bumstead and Classic Physique's Brian Ansley as well. For men's physique fans, we'll also give honorable mentions to the division's GOAT Jeremy Buendia and the current 3-time champion Ryan Terry. Now, let's continue with our top 50. The 21st greatest bodybuilder of all time is Nasser El Sonbati. Nasser was one of the most massive and intimidating physiques of the 1990s. Known for his sheer size combined with surprising aesthetics, he was a constant threat on the Olympia stage. Despite never winning the Olympia, Nasser's size, structure, and presence made him one of the most feared competitors of his era, On his best day, very few could stand next to him and look dominant. Nasser is also an Arnold Classic winner and by many fans the uncrowned 1997 Mr. Olympia. At number 22 we have Shawn Rhoden. Shawn Rhoden is best remembered as the man who finally broke the Phil Heath dynasty. A Mr. Olympia champion, Rhoden brought one of the most aesthetic open physiques of the modern era to the stage, combining shape, balance and conditioning at the highest level. His Olympia winning physique is widely regarded as one of the most visually pleasing of the 2010s. The 23rd greatest bodybuilder of all time is Rich Gaspari. Rich Gaspari is one of the most influential bodybuilders in history, often credited as the pioneer of extreme conditioning. In an era where aesthetics still dominated, Gaspari introduced a new level of hardness and detail that changed judging standards forever. A former Olympia runner-up and Arnold Classic champion, Gaspari's impact on the sport goes far beyond titles. At number 24 we have Lou Ferrigno. Lou Ferrigno is one of the most recognizable bodybuilders of all time. Known for his massive frame and incredible size during the 1970s, Lou was one of the only men who could stand next to Arnold and make him look small. While he never won a Mr. Olympia, his influence on mainstream culture through television and film helped bring bodybuilding to a wider audience. Lou remains a symbol of raw size and classic era mass. The 25th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Lee Priest. Lee Priest is one of the most genetically gifted bodybuilders ever. Despite his shorter stature, he built one of the most massive and dense physiques in the sport, with arms that are still considered among the best of all time. A consistent top Olympia contender during the late 1990s and early 2000s, Lee combined freaky muscle development with impressive conditioning. His outspoken personality also made him one of the most memorable figures in bodybuilding history. At number 26 we have Larry Scott. Larry Scott holds a permanent place in bodybuilding history as the first ever Mr. Olympia winner. He helped define what a champion bodybuilder should look like during the sport's formative years. Best known for his arm development, particularly his biceps, Larry Scott set early standards for symmetry and presentation. His influence can still be seen in how physiques are judged today. The 27th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Vince Taylor. Vince Taylor is one of the most underrated champions in bodybuilding history. Known for his incredible conditioning, detail and longevity, Vince remained competitive well into his later years. Vince is the third winningest bodybuilder ever with 23 professional show wins, topped only by Dexter Jackson and the GOAT Ronnie Coleman. He found massive success later in his career, particularly in Masters competitions, and was known for always arriving in peak shape. At number 28 we have Brandon Curry. Brandon Curry is a Mr. Olympia champion whose career is defined by perseverance and evolution. After years of inconsistency, Curry reinvented himself and reached the very top of the sport, winning both the Mr. Olympia and the Arnold Classic. Known for his shape and fullness, Brandon proved that longevity and patience can still pay off in modern bodybuilding. His Olympia win solidified his place in history. The 29th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Victor Martinez. Victor Martinez possessed one of the most complete physiques of the 2000s. He was named by Ronnie himself as his successor back in the 2000s. His blend of size, symmetry and conditioning made him a serious Olympia contender, and many still believe he should have won the title in 2007. An Arnold Classic champion, Victor's career was marked by both incredible highs and unfortunate setbacks. At his best, he was among the most dangerous competitors of all time. Rounding out the top 30 is Serge Nubret. Serge Nubret was the embodiment of classic bodybuilding aesthetics. Known for his incredible chest, flowing lines, and charismatic stage presence, Serge became an icon of the golden era. He placed multiple times at the Mr. Olympia and was revered not just for his physique but for his philosophy on training and presentation. Serge Nubret remains a timeless symbol of bodybuilding as an art form. Our next group of honorable mentions includes legends like Chuck Sipes, Ed Corney, Danny Padilla, and Bob Paris. As I mentioned before, this list is meant to start a conversation. Nothing is set in stone, but these icons won't be making my top 50 today. Now let's continue. The 31st greatest bodybuilder of all time is Samson Dauda. Samson Dauda represents the present of bodybuilding. Known for his incredible structure, wide frame, and flowing shape, Samson combines modern mass with classic proportions in a way very few athletes can. Still a current competitor, Samson has already established himself as a top-tier contender on the biggest stages. His ceiling appears extremely high, and if his career continues on its current trajectory, he could climb much higher on this list in the future. He's already a Mr. Olympia and Arnold Classic winner. At number 32, we have William Bonac. William Bonac is one of the densest and most consistently conditioned bodybuilders of the modern era. Despite not being the tallest competitor, Bonac made up for it with extreme muscle thickness, hardness, and a relentless work ethic. A multiple-time Arnold Classic champion and Olympia podium finisher, William built a reputation for always showing up in shape. His compact, powerful physique made him a nightmare matchup for much larger competitors. The 33rd greatest bodybuilder of all time is Branch Warren. Branch Warren is the definition of grit and intensity. Known for his brutal training style and granite-like muscle density, Branch brought a level of hardness that very few could match. A two-time Arnold Classic champion, Warren was never the prettiest bodybuilder on stage, but his condition, thickness, and aggression made him incredibly effective in competition. His physique embodied the warrior mentality of bodybuilding. At number 34, we have Chris Dickerson, the 1982 Mr. Olympia winner. Chris was a consistent bodybuilder in the beginning of the 1980s, always pushing for the top spots on the Mr. Olympia stage. He was known for his conditioning at the time and some of the best calves of any Mr. Olympia winner. The 35th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Tom Platz. Tom Platz is legendary for one reason above all else: his legs. Widely regarded as having the greatest leg development in bodybuilding history, Platz redefined what was possible from the waist down. Beyond his quads, Tom was known for his insane training intensity and fearless approach to pain. While he never won a Mr. Olympia, his impact on training culture and lower body development is immeasurable. At number 36, we have Chris Cormier. Chris Cormier possessed one of the best natural structures of the 1990s. With wide shoulders, a small waist, and flowing lines, Cormier had all the tools to be a champion. Although his career never fully reached its maximum potential, he remained a consistent top-level competitor in one of the most competitive eras bodybuilding has ever seen. At his best, Cormier could stand toe-to-toe with anyone. He notoriously finished runner-up at the Arnold Classic for 6 consecutive years between 2000 and 2005, and he's also a top 3 finisher at the Olympia. The 37th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Robbie Robinson. Robbie Robinson was one of the most aesthetic physiques of the golden era. Known for his sharp conditioning, beautiful lines, and some of the best biceps ever, Robbie became a fan favorite throughout the 1970s. Often overlooked in the 70s, Robinson still left a lasting mark on bodybuilding through his look and longevity. His physique remains a reference point for classic aesthetics. At number 38, we have Dennis Wolf. Dennis Wolf was one of the most visually striking bodybuilders of the 2000s and 2010s. His height, wide shoulders, and small waist gave him an X-frame that stood out immediately on stage. An Arnold Classic champion and Olympia podium finisher, Wolf has never reached his peak. At his best, he was one of the most dangerous competitors in the open division in two of the most dominant eras of bodybuilding, 2000s and 2010s. The 39th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Günther Schlierkamp. Günther Schlierkamp is best remembered for his sheer size and massive frame. Standing well over 6 feet tall, Günther brought a level of mass that made him one of the biggest bodybuilders of his era. He famously pushed Ronnie Coleman at the 2002 GNC Show of Strength, creating one of the most iconic moments in bodybuilding history. While his career had ups and downs, his size and presence are undeniable. Rounding out the top 40 is Harold Pohl. Harold Pohl was one of the pioneers of modern bodybuilding symmetry. Competing in the early 1960s, Pohl helped bridge the gap between the pre-Olympia era and the sport we recognize today. Known for his balance and aesthetics, Harold Pohl influenced how physiques were judged in bodybuilding's early competitive years. His contributions helped shape the foundation of the sport. Our next list of honorable mentions include 90s legends like Andreas Munzer, known for his extreme conditioning, Jean-Pierre Fou, a mass monster with one of the best backs, Mike Francois, the 1995 Arnold Classic winner, and Milos Sarcev, probably the most passionate athlete about this sport, appreciated for his knowledge and honesty. The 41st greatest bodybuilder of all time is Mohamed Makawi. Mohamed Makawi was one of the most refined and aesthetically pleasing bodybuilders of the golden era. Known for his razor-sharp conditioning, tight waist, and balanced proportions, Makawi consistently impressed judges throughout the late 1970s and 1980s. Often overshadowed by bigger names of the era, he still managed multiple top finishes at the Mr. Olympia. His physique remains a textbook example of classic symmetry and stage presentation. At number 42, we have Albert Beckles. Albert Beckles is one of the greatest examples of longevity in bodybuilding history. Competing successfully across multiple decades, Beckles maintained elite conditioning and structure well into his later years. Known for his classic lines and professionalism, Beckles proved that consistency and discipline could sustain a high-level career. His longevity alone earns him a respected place on this list. The 43rd greatest bodybuilder of all time is Cedric McMillan. Cedric McMillan represented the return of classic aesthetics to the open division. With his tall frame, small waist, and flowing lines, Cedric stood out in a modern era. An Arnold Classic champion, Cedric's physique was admired for its shape and balance rather than sheer size, which he still had. His presence reminded fans that bodybuilding could still be about artistry as much as muscle. At number 44, we have Paul Dillett. Paul Dillett was one of the most extreme mass monsters of the 1990s. Standing exceptionally tall with enormous muscle mass, Dillett brought freakish proportions that few had ever seen before. While his conditioning and consistency fluctuated, his sheer size and uniqueness made him a constant topic of conversation. At his best, Paul Dillett looked unlike anyone else on the stage. The 45th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Mike Mentzer. Mike Mentzer was one of the most influential figures bodybuilding has ever seen. Known for his heavy-duty training philosophy and near-perfect proportions, Mentzer challenged both training norms and judging standards. Although his competitive career was relatively short, his impact extended far beyond the stage. Mentzer's ideas continue to influence training methods and bodybuilding philosophy decades later. At number 46, we have Nick Walker. Nick Walker represents the modern extreme of muscle density and thickness. Known for his granite-like physique and relentless condition, Nick quickly established himself as a top contender in the open division. While his look is polarizing, there is no denying his competitive success and impact on the current era. Nick's career is still unfolding and his final legacy has yet to be fully written. He's already an Arnold Classic winner and a Mr. Olympia favorite despite his proportions. The 47th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Rolly Winkler. Rolly Winkler is remembered for his explosive muscle bellies and insane fullness. At his peak, Rolly possessed some of the most dramatic muscle shapes ever seen on a bodybuilding stage. Winkler was always a fan favorite due to his larger-than-life physique and stage presence. His look remains one of the most unique in modern bodybuilding. Also, his guest posing appearances are some of the freakish the sport have ever seen. At number 48, we have Boyer Coe. Boyer Coe was one of the most consistent and reliable competitors of the golden era. Known for his symmetry, conditioning, and professionalism, Coe was a regular presence near the top of Olympia standings. While he never captured the Olympia title, his longevity and steady excellence earned him great respect among peers and fans alike. The 49th greatest bodybuilder of all time is Gustavo Badel. Gustavo Badel was a staple of the 2000s bodybuilding scene. Known for his dense muscle mass and powerful upper body, Badel consistently placed well at major shows. Although he never claimed a major title, his physique and work ethic made him a respected competitor during a highly competitive era. Rounding out the top 50 is Andrew Jack. Andrew Jack represents the present of open bodybuilding. With incredible structure and modern mass, he has quickly become one of the most talked about physiques in the sport. Andrew Jackett's potential is enormous, him being considered by many the favorite to win the next Mr. Olympia competition in 2026. His potential to climb much higher on this list is huge, but he's yet to win a major show, so he closes our top 50 list for today. Our final set of honorable mentions includes modern-era super athletes like Tony Freeman, Melvin Anthony, Darren Charles, Steve Kuklo, Juan Morel, Nathan DeAsha, and Akeem Williams. I'm 100% sure I've left out many deserving athletes. As I mentioned at the start, the purpose of this video is to celebrate the sport and start a conversation. This list is highly influenced by my own biases and experiences, shaped by the way I've come to know this incredible sport.